Hi, I'm BriannaBoonana, and I did not intend this video to be a voiceover one. I streamed it live, which you can catch me over at BriannaBoonana, Twitch TV, yada yada yada. So I sped up the video so it wouldn't take you 5 hours to get through, and I did a voiceover so that I could get you to what points I was trying to point out the most while I was doing the rendering. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them below in the comments. I am 100% super happy to answer any and everything I can. But for now, let's get into the video, and hopefully it helps you on your journey to making VTube models and more. All right, see you in there. Bye. Here I'm explaining how I sectioned up over the sketch to know what parts I need to split later on with art mesh. So I'm just going through and splitting up her hair to understand which hair parts need to be separated from the main mass, like her bangs or the side hair pieces and her pigtails. When making art pieces for highly movable parts of the model, you want to make them as neutral as you can. So I'm lowering her eyelids from a high arch to a bit of a low arch so that I can deform it better later on, because you want to be able to wiggle it up and down to more extremes. And if it's in a large arch like that, squishing it is going to come up with some deformities. So this way we just have a better flow for how we work. And I also separate the eyelashes into different chunks depending on how many eyelashes there are. So each eyelash is their own piece so that I have more flexibility for rigging. I super recommend using Symmetry tool in Clip Studio Paint to help make your pupils, since it is a cleaner and symmetrical way of designing your eyes. It just makes it much easier on you if you want to have a nice clean design and you don't want to work on both sides by hand. A tip is holding Alt plus Shift and dragging the corners of your selection means that you will shrink and grow from the center of the image instead of the corners, and that just makes placement of stuff like circles much easier, because then you can bring it in like a ring. Here I explain about separating as many elements as you want or need to maximize your rigging process fluidity. If, for example, you love the bouncy elements in the eyes, you would separate the eye shines, the sparkles, the dots, and the different color layers you have to have as much freedom as possible. Then later, if you feel it's too much separation, you can put it all in one deformer and move things in one chunk instead of in separation. If If you are working on flat colors but don't know what colors you actually want to use, then drawing each new color on its own layer can be a lifesaver. Example, base color, line art color, and shadow and highlight are all separated till I get to the final color that I like, and then I merge them together into one art piece. This is just for someone who, if you don't know exactly what you're doing with your character yet, this is going to be very helpful for you down the line. When making the mouth, it's important to make them as a straight neutral line. The mouth is one of the most deformed objects on a model and one of the most important to not let break or pixelate. So the default mouth shape being a line lets you have the most control over its shape during rigging, which can then be manipulated its defaults later on to shape however you would like it to neutrally sit, such as the W mouth for kitty face. Here I'm showing the mouth internals, which consist of the mouth sock, e.g. the flesh inside our mouths, that would then house our tongue, teeth, throat, and uvula. All will be clipped inside the mouth sock in rigging to keep everything neat and tidy. For the mouth, you'll want to make a top and bottom lip skin that will be used to hide any stray bits of the mouth sock outside of the lips line's shape. This just keeps everything clean, and it makes it easier for you as the rigger to then go in and deform a bit more freely. Here, we're sectioning the ear to be more flexible. We've got the outer ear, inner ear, behind fluff, and piercings. We separate ear like that so that I can manipulate the outer ear for a more 3D turning. That would be more difficult if I combined it with the skin of the ear. Plus, having it separated like this later on gives us the ability to do color changes, which is a more new concept for a live 2D that you can do for rigging. So if I want, I can change this fox's fur later from orange to like pink if I want. A tip for Clip Studio Paint users: you can use Layer, Property, then to Border Effects to give yourself a simple and easy outer edge line art to your shapes. Then you can select the base layers inside and do your rendering there. Or copy the shape and have the layer below hold the border effect and do your editing on the top one and merge after. This is a quick and easy way to do line art if your shapes aren't super complex and you just want a nice consistent clean line. Another tip is on layer Preferably at the top of your layers, make color swatches. Especially if you're going to blend and render your art, this makes it so you have clean base colors of your palettes that you want to select from. When making VTuber models, it's useful to think of them as paper puppets. Think of the joints and such where they attach to each other, and each piece should have extra art drawn underneath each other so that when they sit on the canvas or move, they have no gaps or extra space, which is extremely noticeable since you'll have nothing behind your model majority of the time besides, the screen that they're streaming. When drawing the neck, it's best to draw slightly high up past the chin so that when you turn the head left and right, or on the Z angle, live 2D, don't worry, there won't be a sudden gap where the neck needs to be. This stops you from having to deform the neck and stretch it in weird ways when you can already just have it sitting there perfect and ready. A good rule of thumb of what to separate for your model pieces is to think what needs to rotate and have physics applied to it and what doesn't. If she turned her body, for example, would the spikes on her collar need to shift? If yes, separate them. Also good to separate based on material types, that's how I do it. So spikes are metal and the color is leather, so I would separate them. The skin would be separated from cloth, the eyeball from the lashes, the hair from the head, and etc. Here, I've drawn her torso in full because I know at some point her bust will have to move, so it would then show her torso underneath. Think about movement when you make your pieces. Will something become visible when they move or have physics applied? If yes, then you want to draw more underneath than you normally would. It doesn't hurt. Border effects to the rescue. Here's a tip. Sometimes make my lines a little too thin, so using layer properties, border effect, we can thicken the lines quickly and cleanly. You just have to use the same color as the line art that you're drawing with, and then you just merge those two together. Easy peasy. Yes. Fingers should be separated depending on how complex you want them to be and how flexible. I separate her nails/claws because I intend to add color changing options, which if combined with her hand would mean her hand would change with it, and that wouldn't work for what I have envisioned. So if you have the fingers separated, either in chunk clusters or singular fingers on their own, you have, what's the word? More flexibility to do more poses. Maybe you want to curl the fingers into a fist. Maybe you want them to flex out. Maybe you want them to just wiggle a little bit. More separation, the more you give the rigger room to play. Here, I changed the spikes to match the green for the rest of her outfit. I also didn't like the size of the collar being so large anymore, so with the collar's folder selected, I came in and shrunk all art pieces aside simultaneously down to the size I wanted. Here, I've divided the tail's color and line art up so I can do a color change later. It's also of note that it's drawn down in neutral so that when I rig it, it'll have the best deformation possible for swinging to either side. Again, neutral posing for more maximized flexibility later. If I just drew it to the one side, if like how I wanted to before, I wouldn't be able to have her tail wag the way I actually want it to wag. So, neutral pose, flexibility. Remember it. Quickly checking if the colors and saturation I chose will be easy to edit later and look good. My plans are for her orange fur, white fur, nails, outfit stripe, and eyes to be color changeable. Again, more pieces separated, more flexible later on. And here comes the tedious part of model making, the folder structure and layer naming and cutting. I usually leave a lot of that to the very end, so basically have to do it all now. How you name your layers is important for the rigger's comprehension of what exactly all the pieces are and do. A good structure to follow would be I_iris_L. So we know this art piece is part of the I group, specifically the iris, and the left one. Always remember, Live2D does not like special symbols passed using underscore, or spaces for that matter. So if your layer has a space or special symbol, the ID for that layer will default to artmesh1 to 1 million. Which quickly becomes a nasty mess. Using underscore instead, so I_iris_L will match the ID of the item as well. This is important because we use IDs to clip meshes to each other and many other things. If you have an identical piece on both sides of the model, example the eyes or the ears, you can just work on one side and symmetrically flip it over in Live2D. So I cut up all I need on the left side and I merge it to the right side just for a guide image, so it doesn't look weird while I'm working on it. So basically when you get into Live2D, you can just rig her eye blinking, the physics, looking around, all that on the one side, and then you can grab that group in its folder. We gotta be clean with folder structures here. And then you can just symmetry mirror it over, and it's beautiful. It does all the work you want for it. That's if you have symmetrical things. It gets a little bit trickier if you have asymmetrical things, like if she has one green eye and one blue eye, for instance. You can just shove the blue eye into the green eye folder and just delete the green eye after, and it'll work the way. Alright, I don't have any more tips further for this video, but if there is anything that you're curious about that I did or didn't do, or that you want to learn, please ask me below. I am so happy to answer to my best of my abilities for anything that you're curious about. And if it's it's a big enough answer, I'll make another video for you guys, specifically addressing that. For now, just sit back, enjoy the gentle music and finishing off these layers, and the next video, we'll get right into rigging. All right, I'll see you guys later. Enjoy.